Hell yeah, man. So if I mention anything during what I'm about to go through that
Yep.
reminds you of something that you forgot,
Oh
just go
yeah, I'll
ahead and
shout it out.
you got the green light to interrupt me. But
10-4.
I'm gonna go through this a little bit quicker than I might have otherwise because we're like 2.5 hours in already,
Yep. Sounds about right.
approaching that. But yeah, man. So I didn't put these lists in any particular order because it's too hard to order musicians for me. I love music in general. So I did put an asterisk beside some that are extra special to me. But for the most part, I'm just going to run right down the list. I did
Mm-hmm.
separate hip hop from blended genre, which I do have
Mm-hmm.
some in the blended genre that are definitely hip hop influenced.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but anyways, I'm gonna just go for it. First one, I'm gonna say this one first. Lupe Fiasco. Not a big fan of Lupe right now. James's face explains
Me
about
either.
how I feel about Lupe right now, but
Yep.
big impact on my life.
Yeah.
Lasers is an album that
Still made
have left
phenomenal
an
music.
imprint in me.
Yep.
And I liked several other albums, Food and Liquor 2 being the
Oh
one
yeah.
I would say was my second favorite out of his discography. But
Yep.
anyhow, Ti, Drake, Lil Wayne. I don't listen to those guys nearly as much anymore, but I felt I had to mention all of them because you get into hip hop. For me, my story is I got into hip hop because my older cousin listened to it, and obviously, the popular ones were the ones that were most easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a couple others, Eminem, being one,
Yep.
but I name these first because the 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 further I get into it, it's not in any particular order, but the later I mention it, the more impactful they've been in general. Not necessarily in exact order, but
Mm-hmm.
um, man, a guy that is going to be. He's been on the podcast, but my audio wasn't right. I was still a novice podcaster, so we're going to get him on again very soon. But real. I used to think it was real by real because the way he notates it is RIELXRIEL, and that X I
Uh-huh.
thought it was like lumber, like 4x4.
Yeah.
I thought it stood for by, and I
Real
thought
by
it was
real.
like real by real, like a movie, like real by real.
Yeah.
But he said no, it's
Which
just stands.
actually sounds pretty
That
dope.
sounds dope. When he heard my thought of that, he was like,
Yeah,
that
he
is.
probably was
He was
like,
like, that
oh,
is
I
kind of
can see
dope.
that.
But he said, nah, it's just real. His name is Gabriel, so
I got you.
it's the last four letters of his name. But yeah, man, he's got some music that I really like. One song in particular was my number one song on Spotify, and I listen to it all the time. It's called Salvador Dali. I'll link that in the description.
Mm-hmm.
Cess Crew. They're not rapping together anymore, but they're a hip hop duo from Kansas City. Maybe they'll get back together. There's a whole story behind that. I won't go into it. Lil Dicky. I fuck with Lil Dicky. As an artist in general, I like the show Dave. Did you watch Dave on Hulu
I've
or
seen an
Netflix or
episode. I've
whatever?
seen an episode. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah. I know
it's
it comes on
it's
FX.
pretty good. I
Yeah.
like you talk about a huge Kanye fan.
Oh, I know.
Lil
Yeah.
Dicky is a huge Kanye fan.
Yeah. No, I remember him showing Ye love in one of his interviews. I saw him with
Yeah.
somebody one time, Nard Ward or someone.
That's like his number one idol is
Yeah.
Kanye, without a
Yeah.
doubt. He talks about it in the show a lot. But speaking of Kanye, Big Sean is on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Big Sean, love you, Big
Mm-hmm.
Sean.
Yeah, man.
NF,
I know you like NF.
NF, Flatbush Zombies.
Uh-huh.
I love me some
That last
Flatbush.
album too is crazy, man. That last album is crazy. I've been
I
listening to
particularly like them because they're like, they're catalyzing the psychedelic movement in hip hop, revitalizing a psychedelic
Yeah.
wave in the hip hop community, which I think is awesome. So
Yeah.
shout out Flatbush Zombies. Russ, got to give my flowers to Russ.
Independent.
Independent. And
Yeah.
King ISO. He's with Strange now, but
Mhm.
man, I do have a little story to tell with him. I met him at the Norva May 28th, 2018. And I actually talked to him for a little bit, man. And he actually, that conversation kind of shift. I don't want to say it was like one of the most significant worldview shifts I've ever had,
Mhm.
but I asked him a question, something along the lines of like, what is the foundation of all this bullshit? All these lies, like what should our focus, like the number one focus be? And he was like, I don't want to quote him exactly, but it was like big pharma.
Paraphrasing.
Big pharma, basically. It was like the big pharma industry, the medicine industry, man. And that, I think I've told you this before, because as somebody that came into the whole conspiracy, which I don't, that word is whatever.
I'm starting to hate it too.
I know, but
That's why I try to say. You notice I try to say truth or more.
truth,
but
or
I try
the
to say something.
resistance
Yeah,
community. I've heard that,
yeah.
but whatever. It
Whatever.
is what it is.
It is what it is.
But it was like, man, that's, I've always been trying to get people, like, onto the tip of knowing about central banking and how that's a pyramid scheme, essentially a racket. And I think he had a point that it just clicked with me. It's like, they don't care.
Yeah.
Everybody out here on drugs. You know what I mean?
But it's just
illegal or legal. They're
yes
on drugs.
That's the thing. Because
Nobody's got the time to even think
suburban
about economic system.
Yeah, they're on their pharmaceutical drugs and drinking wine with it. It's all over, man. No matter what it is, psychedelic weed or your pharmaceuticals. It's everyone's
industry,
high.
big pharma. Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out King ISO. 3 days after that, 3 days later, on June 1st, 2018, he put out an album that I'm gonna do a top 10 album after I get through the artists too.
Mhm.
I'll run through it real quick. But he put out an album that is called Dementia, and that was independent. He signed with Strange Music after that album, but he did that album by himself, produced, mixed, written, all of it. And epic album.
Yeah.
King ISO.
Shout out to artists who are learning that God, to have the skill set to be able to mix, master, engineer, produce, write, compose, all of that, your own project, man. Shout out to all of those guys. And you're seeing a lot more of them in the game now, because the industry don't even want to deal with you if you can't do it all now.
Right.
Some
more mainstream ones that I have to say, just because for better or worse, they had a significant impact on my life. J. Cole, Kanye, Jay-Z, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar.
Yes, sir.
And then the top,
and of course, shout out Cole. I didn't mention Cole, but
shout out of course, Cole, right? Sure. And then creme de la creme for me. And like I said, there's some that I have under my blended list that could be considered hip hop. So be patient.
Mm-hmm.
But creme de la creme, as far as what I would consider strictly hip hop, or mostly hip hop, and in Mac Miller's case, Mac Miller's up here in the creme de la creme section.
RIP.
Nas, of course, Locksmith, West Coast rapper, a lot. Look, he's still too small. He's still too small. Anytime you get the chance to shout him out, anytime I get the chance to shout him out, I'm shouting him out. Shout out Locksmith. Right. Give a fucking shit, dude. Immortal Technique. Nothing else to say about that. Just Immortal Technique. Tech Nine. I mean,
that's
strange music.
That's your dude, yeah.
Independent, number one independent in the world. Tech Nine.
Absolutely. Which
did the halftime show Sunday night, Kansas City.
At Kansas City.
That's big. That's big time for
that's big. That's
like
big.
That.
But of course, they didn't show that halftime show or anything.
Oh no, it was on YouTube. You had to watch that one on YouTube.
Watch it on YouTube. Yeah, I got you. But that's what's up, that he got to do it though in his own city.
Amazing. And still the crowd, regardless of whether it was broadcast. Game. Yeah, that's a lot of fans, a lot of people. That's awesome. That's what's up. Awesome.
But I do hear that the city be showing him love though.
Oh, he's the king of Kansas City. Bro.
Yeah, he's got respect. And I don't just mean with fans. I mean, he's got respect with.
He goes on the news channel.
Yeah,
the local news channel has his story, his broadcast, his story. I mean, he's the real deal, bro. Shout out Tech Nine, love. That's it. And then, of course, B.O.B. and Absol. Of course, those two are going to be at the top of this list.
Yeah.
For me, as far as like blended genre, I'm going to go ahead and do the ones that are like hip hop influenced, since I just read off the hip hop list. Dirty Heads, if y'all have ever heard of Dirty Heads, they're like a West Coast reggae fusion hip hop Man, they're all over the place. They're like a no genre type of band. Love Dirty Heads. Check them out. Jerry Robinson, he's a new artist with Strange Music with Tech Nine and them. He's got a pop sound a little bit, but it's fresh. I love it. Kid Cudi. What can I say other than Man on the Moon is a classic album. Regardless of what has happened since then. I mean,
Yeah,
I liked Pain, Passion, and Demon Slaying.
Yeah. Well, I like this. I like, me, I got an ear for different sounds too. I like this new album, but I like this new album. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not gonna say nothing else.
It wasn't
Yeah,
me, but it wasn't, I didn't hate it, but
yeah.
Damian Marley I had to put on this list because Nas and Damian Marley, distant
that was a crazy
relatives.
album. Yeah, what an album that was.
Amazing. Jelly Roll, hip hop influence, country sound, 80s voice, just great. I mean, love Jelly Roll. And then, of course, if anybody really knows me, I'm gonna have to shout out Mayday, Recognize, Burns. Those guys are just, they can play, they transcend genreless. They literally just tear it up regardless of what they're playing. So shout out Mayday, shout out Rec, shout out Burns. Stuck on an Island. We'll get to that in a minute. And then other artists outside of hip hop or even hip hop influenced. If you've ever heard of Black Mill, he's a United Kingdom British dubstep, but I'm not usually into dubstep. It's like a very chill. It's like a trill. It's like a trill step. It's so dope the way what he does is I fuck with that. So Black Mill, one word. Grizz, he's like a saxophone, electronic funk, jam kind. I mean, he's funky. He's dope. Love him. He's actually out of Detroit as well. A lot of Detroit on this list.
D-Town, man. It's a lot of D-Town in the game for sure.
Mimosa,
a lot of people don't realize it's a lot of Virginia and DMV people in the game too, though.
That's true. That's true. Shout out Missy Elliott and Pharrell.
Oh my God,
and Pusha T.
Yep, Pusha. Yep.
Mimosa, he's that's more strictly dubstep, but again, I fuck with his style. The Glitch Mob is you could call them dubstep, but they're more electronic fusion. They're just good. They're all over the place, but they're definitely dubby, but I wouldn't say like dubstep necessarily.
Right.
Papadosio, they're definitely more classic jam band type acid jam. I mean, even their name, Papadosio. Ronald Jenkins, he might be autistic. I don't even know. Like he's a little out there. He's sounds funny when he talks, but you put him on a synthetic electronic keyboard, double stack keyboard, and he puts out some of the
That's the shit I'm talking about.
God, Ronald Jenkins, he's on the creme de la creme of this list.
That just reminds me, G. Mike Dean. Shout out to Mike Dean, who is the godfather of all things mastering and mixing and synthesized. And I mean, I give Kanye so many flowers. Kanye, most of Kanye's finished products and his team's finished products don't happen without Mike Dean finishing them. So shout out to Mike Dean and everything he's contributed to the game and the sound, and Travis Scott and all of these other. I mean, even back in. People don't remember, but Dean's been around forever, dude, since UGK and Pimp C and them boys and Ghetto Boys and all of them. Like he was producing for those dudes too. So anyway, shout out to Mike Dean.
Hell yeah. Do that whenever you think of something for real. That's
and Hit Boy. Hit Boy. Right. What kind of run is that non-human on this freaking year? This the past forever.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And some of the stuff, listening to his playlist on New Year's, I didn't even realize he did some of the songs he did. And this is me, and I know who makes a song, and I know who, usually. But man, I was like, damn, I didn't realize how many songs as he made for Beyonce and many songs as he made for good music in general. And then for him to be doing what he's doing with Nas and Sean and them right now, shout out to Hit Boy, man. He's so versatile. He's working with R&B cats too. Just shout out to Hit Boy. He gets his flowers too. This crazy run he's on right now. Historic run he's on. All right, I'm done.
No. I wanted to let you continue because I wanted to come back to all of that came to your mind because I said Ronald Jenkins. You got to check him out. Ronald Jenkins.
You said double keyboard and I started thinking of producers. Like, fuck, I didn't name any producers. And producers, I mean, this is the time to be alive for a producer, boy, because they're getting recognition like never before. Producers are.
Yep. And then Beats Antique to wrap up the kind of electronic fusion sounds. Beats Antique is dope. And then more pop type of stuff that I gotta throw it out there because it influenced me one way or another. Jack Johnson, he's like a very light rock,
I
very
know about
chill,
Jack.
easy listening. And then Dave Matthews Band, my parents listened to them growing up, but like you were saying, I'm not mentioning them because my parents listened to them. They actually had an influence on me. They're Virginia. Dave Matthews is from Virginia.
For Virginia, yeah.
And just good music, not my typical music that I listen to, but every now and then I jam out and I fuck with Dave Matthews
everybody
Band.
has different moods, man.
Right.
I mean, everybody has different moods and different genres and sounds spark different emotions and is fitting for those moods. So I know.
And then it's not even country-ish, pop country. I got to shout out Zach Brown Band. Anybody that growing up in my culture, white boy from the rural place,
from rural.
Any country artist talking about smoking weed and still showing respect for the veterans and still being in that lane, but doing it in a way that's much realer than a lot of fakeness I experienced growing up where I grew up. Shout out Zach Brown.
Yep.
I fuck with you. And then creme de la creme on this part of the list. Tycho is just a very, I don't even know how to explain either one of these two that I'm about to say, Tycho or Emancipator. Emancipator, even though he's not hip hop, I gotta put him above Ab-Soul, B.O.B., all of them, bro. I mean, the music he played, it's instrumental. There's only a few songs where there's even a vocalist on there, and it's usually like a female doing some like, angelic, mystical type.
Yeah, sound. I see what you're saying, harmonizing or whatever.
And where her voice is just another instrument, basically.
Oh, I got you.
But man, he started out as a hip hop producer, and he's actually from the Northern Neck. Went to William and Mary, and moved out to Portland. Right after he graduated William and Mary, and he's been out there pretty much since. But yeah, dude, his music is just, there's no words. So as somebody that loves hip hop and loves the word and loves lyricism, for me to put him at the top of the list just lets you know the intricate sounds, the layeredness, he just does it all, man. And it's such a chill sound, and it's just, Emancipator is number one to me. Tycho is very good, is good enough for me to give my flowers to him. And he's in that same realm of Emancipator where it's just like a chill soundscape almost type of genre, so to speak. And then to wrap up my musicians, reggae or dub inspired, I had a few of these. First and foremost, Middlesex band, Stuck on a Name. Got to give my flowers to these guys. They're making they're ironically making a name for themselves as Stuck on a Name. But they're good. They're good, especially for a local band. They're really fucking good.
They're called Middlesex Band?
No, Stuck on a Name. Drew Luffy's band.
Oh,
and, Josh Wright and Joe Gaskins.
Right,
all them cats.
Right.
They're killing it. They played at Oyster Festival.
They had the little pop-up down at they live in Waterview.
Some of them do, yeah.
I think. Anyway, they had an event. They had an event locally. Recently.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Shout out. They're for being from Middlesex, they're legit. They're legit on the national scene. They're making a name. They're making it's ironic.
That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and they think they even got like some Virginia Reggae Dub Awards a few years back, which like Soja, who's on my list right here. I'm about to name they like won awards there. Soja's big time now. It's
for sure.
And they're getting awards at the same award show. Like that's you're starting to do something.
Damn, Soja's been around for a minute too. At this point, he's been doing this thing for a while.
No kidding. Shout out Soja. Their first album was like 2001. They were
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Of course, shout out the legend Bob Marley. Of course.
Yeah. Bob's.
Shout out.
Since you saying Bob, Bob for some reason, I mean they're not really the same, but it makes me think of Lenny Kravitz for some reason. Shout out to Lenny. You know,
Okay.
I love Lenny for my other type of music. And shout out to St. John because Lenny found Saint, and Saint is a problem. Bottom line, St. John is shout out to Saint. He gets his flowers too. Check out St. John if you ain't.
No, I saw you did.
Check out
Kanye did a
Lenny.
feature. They did a collab. I saw that.
An amazing song.
Yeah.
Amazing song together. Matter of fact, if you want to figure out who both of them are, listen to their song together. Did they do the Monica Lewinsky song? I think it was Monica Lewinsky. Anyway, we'll find it and put it in the link.
And last few 10-foot ganja plant. They're like a dub, mostly dub. There's a few songs with vocals, but I'm pretty sure they're out of upper New York, upstate New York. But they're killer. And then Slightly Stupid. I think everybody's probably heard of them. West Coast, kind of in the Sublime sound inspired. And then Revolution, last one I'll name is Revolution. Revolution, the reason I put them at the top of the list, not necessarily ones that I listen to the most in the reggae field, but when I first started smoking, I listened to a lot of Revolution. They were somebody that when, you know, I was kind of going through the transition of opening my mind and becoming a lot more aware, 2007, 2008, 2009, I was listening to a lot of Revolution. So although I don't listen to them as much these days, I still do every now and then get in a Revolution mood, and shout out to those boys. They're dope. And then I'm gonna run through the rest of this as quick as possible because this has been a long episode, but it's been dope though. But it's been so dope. So
that's fine. Well, a good thing about it is you're gonna clip it up and be good. But we can, let's tie it up.
Albums. So I named all the artists. That's about 50 artists. I tried to limit it to 50. But top 10 albums. This is again in not necessarily particular order, but a loose order. All 6s and 7s, Tech 9. That was the album that got me into Tech 9, 2011. Amazing. I mean, all of these albums that I'm about to name, I can't say enough about. If I put an album on this list, this is creme de la creme. All of these. Control System, Absol.
Man, that's up there, boy. Man, that's up there for me too, boy.
Damn. From Kendrick Lamar. I like Absol more than Kendrick, but I put Damn ahead of Control System because that was, I mean, all I could say after listening to that album was damn.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, listen, just like that, all caps.
Listen, he's still Kendrick for a reason. You know, he's still first on the pecking order of the group.
Well, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are good Kid, Mad City people, and then you got your to Pimp a Butterfly people. And I was before Damn, I was all like Section 80. Section 80. I was like, there's no way he'll ever top Section 80. And then he put out Damn.
I still think Section 80 is his best work ever.
Well, that's I'll at least give you that's debatable.
Of course, everything's debatable in music. It's subjective.
True,
but
in my opinion, the only one that is in the league of Damn is Section 80. But Damn was for me, like, because I really thought, I was like, he'll never top Section 80.
Don't get in my Damn was a hell of an album.
In my mind, I was like, he's never gonna top Section 80. That's a masterpiece of an album. And then he did, and I was just like, damn. And that's the name of the fucking album. Is just.
I think he has a chance to top that, bro.
He's amazing.
He's that good, and the fact that he went away for this long tells me it's just going to be so. It's just going to be. Words won't begin to. TDE in general, all of them, man, they're about to come back. And I know Isaiah just dropped his year, and Isaiah was gone for a long time and came back with a masterpiece.
Have you listened to that? A Room Full of Mirrors?
Of course. Oh, wait.
A Room Full of Mirrors. That's Punch's.
Punch's album.
Daylight
I thought you were
Isaiah. No. It's not Punch's album. It's like it's a whole collective called A Room Full of Mirrors. It's Punch, and they got I know Daylight's in it, and I think Isaiah Rashad might be in it too. But no, you gotta check them out, bro.
Oh, okay.
A Room Full of Mirrors. Yeah, you gotta check that one out, dog. It's a collective, Punch? A West Coast collective.
Okay.
Yes, bro. If you're a TDE fan and you haven't heard of A Room Full of Mirrors yet, get on that. Get on that one.
I see what Punch
ASAP.
keep putting out there, but Punch is one. I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out.
Okay, all right. What were you about to say about Punch though? Punch is the man. I hope you weren't about to say nothing bad.
I'm not about to say nothing crazy, but Punch is not really the artist. Punch is like other thing to TDE. So when I look at them,
all right, but okay. Now that you say that though, listen to the song.
No. I understand.
Listen to the song, "The Man Behind the Curtains." Have you heard that one?
No, but I can already tell you by the name of it. I know
the
he's
man behind the curtains.
Him and Top Dog.
Punch.
Listen, it makes sense.
Listen to it.
Completely
Punch.
Sense.
I've gotten look, and every time Punch hops on an Ab song, it's one of Ab's realest fucking songs.
Really, that's true though. That's true.
Punch is look. Don't and I defend him the way I defend Ab. I love that guy. He's awesome.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
I got to check more of the music of Punch out.
Yeah. A room full of mirrors. I gotta check. Okay, so yeah, so the album is called A Room Full of Mirrors. That's what I was trying to find out for you. That it's the artist is a collective called A Room Full of Mirrors, and they have it's an album. It's called Money Bags. Check it out. The first song is Money Bags, 8 tracks. Just
it's on Apple Music.
Just fucking ridiculous. I have to imagine it's on all platforms. I got it on Tidal, so yeah, check that one out, bro. But yeah, my top albums of all time to continue. Dementia, I already mentioned earlier by King ISO.
Yeah, I see it.
Absolutely amazing. Dementia. Mm-hmm. Man on the Moon, I mentioned that one earlier. Kid Cudi, absolutely amazing. I put No Genre on here instead of Elements because I knew we were going to mention Elements anyway. And Elements I felt like was kind of cheating because it's like 4 projects in one. So I put No Genre because I think for me, No Genre was the one where it was like, damn, B.O.B. like.
No, that was the one for you before.
And it was also the one where he kind of diverted from being obviously pop. Like he had put out mixtapes where it was clear he was kind of in the conscious dabbling in that.
And I remembered even then we were like, oh, this is nice. Yeah. But this is probably as far as it can go. And even then, I was fine with that.
He broke out of the shell
completely. How big of an artist he was. Right. But with No Genre, artist he was at the time. I just was like, hey, this is
No Genre, he broke out the shell completely.
Yeah.
And the first track on there, Beast Mode.
Exactly.
And then the whole thing is No Genre top album or project, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
The only one on here that's not hip hop, and I just had to put it on here because, I mean, as everybody probably knows by now, if they've listened to enough episodes, and as you know, I've done some LSD in my day, and I took an LSD trip one time and put on a classic LSD album, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and had an experience that is just beyond words. And so I actually have the flag, the Dark Side of the Moon flag, hanging above my bed in my room. So Dark Side of the Moon.
I can see how that's on you.
As far as not even being hip hop influence, it's my favorite album of all time. The next 3 that I'm gonna name, all of them are kind of blended, not strictly hip hop. Swimming by Mac Miller. I wish I had gotten into Mac earlier, man. I should.
Now I was listening to Mac, but I wasn't into.
I got into him right before he died, man. The timing was like heartbreaking because it was like I had just gotten into him. I keep a journal.
I remember our conversation that you had with me about Mac. You were like, bro, go back and listen.
Yeah, I keep a journal, and I mean, I don't know the exact date that I really got into him, but I remember looking back through my journal after he died, and August 31st, 2018, the only entry I made that day, swimming is amazing, all caps underlined. And a week later, 7 days later, he passed away, and I was just like,
it's nuts, bro.
Aside from Kobe Bryant, that's the only 2 celebrities I've ever cried over. Only 2 people I never met.
Yeah,
that fucked me up. If they
Mac hit me. Mac definitely hit me. I was listening to Mac since Blue Slide Park and when I was in Radford. So I mean, I was bumping Mac, and I remember I was always like, yo, people worried about the wrong thing. I always say this: people be worried about the wrong things. Just listen to the man rap. The dude can rap. And But it I guess like with anything, man, it's something different when he died and then you start to go back, especially with where we're at in our conscious phase, you start to go back and see like, oh, this is around when he started to ascend consciously and started to reflect it in his music. I remember when he was doing that whole Larry Fisherman thing and all of that stuff, and I was like, what is he trying to? I couldn't figure out, but I see now what he was doing. He was, first of all, he was finding himself, he was finding his sound. Hip hop always want to pigeonhole you into this what you are, like, oh, you're a backpack rapper, you're what they call, I think they named that kind of rap, they called it something. It wasn't even backpack anymore. That came off after Kanye came through. There was this new thing that they put him and Asher Roth. Oh, frat rap. They started calling it frat rap. And I was like, okay, maybe I could see how they called it that early, but to me, Mac Miller was the best of that shit. Blue Slide Park, bro, was such a vibe. It was such a vibe, you know, when him and Wiz was coming out of Pittsburgh at the same time. It was just a time, man. That was when I was in college, so I guess it just hits different. It stands out different. But shout out to Mac, man. Yeah, but swimming was.
I've got the vinyl. I've got the vinyl hanging in my bedroom. It's
insane to see his evolution, man. His mature, how his music started to mature, like the way it started to mature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, swimming was the one for me. That was when I really was like, oh, when I heard swimming, I was like, man, I got to go back and listen to everything.
Listen to all this shit.
Listen to all of this and catch up. You know?
Yeah.
So good. But yeah, Stuck on an Island, Mayday. Again, you know, with Mayday, I heard about them because of Tech-9 signing them. And then the first album I heard was Take Me to Your Leader, which was their first album off of Strange Music.
Right.
And it was really, it was as good as Swimming, to where I was like, now I got to go back and listen to everything they've ever put out.
Yep.
And Stuck on an Island, man, it's definitely not all hip hop. Like there's, you know, some of the verses are definitely hip hop, you know, but the music and the way they put it together, it's like a live band. It's a 6-piece. They're down to a 3-piece now, but Stuck on an Island, they were a 6-piece, and it's different, bro. And it's just, you know, my ego really identified with it because I feel like I'm a spiritual mutt in a lot of ways. I'm not gonna go all into that, but it just. Even Stuck on an Island, you know, the concept of that is very similar to my podcast idea of alienation.
Right.
You know, stuck on an island, you know.
Right.
We're all on an island to ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
Unless we reach out to make connections and tell stories and share stories and
Yeah.
listen to other people's stories.
Yeah.
And then number 1, Distant Relatives.
You've always said that was your favorite one. I remember the first time I heard that album, I was already deep into Nas, and it stood out to me because I'm almost sure I'm accurate on this. Distant Relatives came out after Steelmatic.
Oh yeah, no, a while after Stillmatic. It was 2011 or 2010 maybe.
Oh yeah, I'm tripping. So that was after. My bad. After Godson. That was around the Godson era.
Yeah, 2000
and Streets Disciple era. It was in between those two albums, I think. And I remember, you know, being such a Nas fan, I was like, yo, this is different. And obviously at the age I was at, I didn't appreciate it until a little later. I didn't start appreciating it until I was taking those after I started my awakening phase, and I started taking those long trips on Raffer on 81. It was just different. I started looking at it and hearing it different as I got older, because that's a mature album, obviously. And you got to be in a different space to even have that type of album resonate with you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, so
just amazing album. Number 1, and I'm a music person, so that says a lot. All right, I'm just gonna run down these other lists. Might say a little bit here and there. Documentaries. This is a relatively short list. The first documentary that I would say was kind of like a red pill for me. I've mentioned it on a previous podcast before. It's called America: From Freedom to Fascism. The filmmaker, his name was Aaron Rousseau. He's passed away since then. It focused on the American income tax law. Another another really influential one, especially in my life, given like my personal story and things that have happened in my family and stuff. There's a one called The American Drug War, The Last White Hope.
Yeah, you mentioned that one before.
Amazing, amazing. Just nothing else to say, but check that one out.
Right.
Zeitgeist, I would say, was probably behind Kymatica. I would say that's solidly my second favorite documentary ever. Filmmaker Peter Joseph. You can find that one free on YouTube. I'll have the link to that in the description as well. And then Ben Stewart, pretty much any documentary he's made deserves its flowers. So he made one with John Chavez called DMT Quest. It's about endogenous DMT, the DMT that's already in our body that we can activate through meditation and certain physical practices like cold baths. Wim Hof is in the documentary. Esoteric Agenda, classic truther, whatever label you prefer for the conspiracists of the world. But for me, Esoteric Agenda, the last about 12 minutes, it's called, he does it in chapters, and it's the last chapter. It's called Illusion and Reality. But that last chapter of Esoteric Agenda specifically blew my mind, and it's actually what got me into Ben Stewart. It's why I watched Kymatica. It's the reason I knew about Kymatica, because I was one of the first like 400 people to watch Kymatica.
To watch the joint.
When I watched it, I was like, "There's only 300 and some views." Like, I was like, "Like, how is this not fucking on the mainstream news?" You know what I mean? Like, why isn't this huge? Well, I was still, naive at that time, but anyway,
Kymatica, I can't wait to see your link list for this episode.
This is going to be so good. So good.
It's going to be, it's going to be for everything we've talked about in every episode.
Yeah,
it's going to come back to fruition just from this link list. It's crazy.
From this. Ungrip, he did a documentary called Ungrip. It's about at maritime admiralty law, which I'll talk about a little bit later, so I'm not going to go too deep into that right now. Esoteric Agenda 2.2, he released that on BitChute. It's not on YouTube. That came out right when coronavirus hit, May 2020. And then, like I already said, Kymatica, number one to me, best documentary of all time, period. And Ben Stewart says that's my baby, and I understand, Ben. That's so good.
Kymatica, huh?
Kymatica, just top, creme de la creme, better than Zeitgeist, and Zeitgeist is
I remember he specifically said I had to take Zeitgeist to the next level, and the only way to do that was to kind of tap into where he felt
Peter Joseph had missed the spots. He was filling in the gaps,
which is how, just like a good artist, man. That's why
you build off of other good artists.
That's why I don't care that Playboy Cardi, that's his lane, because you know what? Somebody's gonna come along that can probably rap like Kendrick, but loves Playboy, and is gonna fuse those two worlds together, and it's gonna blow our minds. Oh my God. I didn't even think it could evolve. Every time I say it can't evolve anymore. Like, production can't get any more better than what it is now. Production is great. Yeah, right. It's always evolving. Always. Yeah. So no, I love that stuff, because like Zeitgeist came through. He had to lay the foundation, and then A Star Is Born every day came through and took it to the next level. I'm probably going to watch Climatica again. So I saw Climatica in pieces.
Kymatica. There's no L in it.
Excuse me, Climatica. Climatica. I see what I can do with that one. But anyway, that's another conversation. Climatica. I need to have one sit with it and watch it all the way through.
Yes, you do. Yes. Yeah, for sure. That's number one. Creme de la creme. Number one, period. That's there's no gray area in the documentary category for me. That one's solid number one.
That's the one. Gotcha.
So my top 25 has some Twitter accounts on them, but there was a couple of Twitter accounts that I felt like I wanted to give their flowers to that's not on my top 25 list. So shout out Wida Vision on Twitter, at Wida, WIDA, with a space in between each one. Vision. It's got like a Black Panther eye as the profile. I'm pretty sure he's based out of UK based on some of the tweets, as well as Pyramid Realm, who he was on an episode with Conspiracy, and I mentioned both of these guys specifically because I've seen them promote the 4 agreements, and I love anybody that does that. So got to give you all my flowers.
Hey, that's a
Shout out
tribe,
Pyramid
man. That's a
Realm.
tribe.
Shout out Y Division. Next category, personal mentors. Like you said with Mark White, I've got 3 that I have to mention. One, Dave Bratt. He was my faculty advisor at Randolph-Macon.
You've talked about him before too, yeah.
Chair of the economics department, and
he was the one that made you reconsider what you were.
He was an economics professor, and he was the one that encouraged me to take a philosophy course.
Right.
And his idea was to get a philosophy minor and still major in economics, but he pushed me down that road, and the snowball just
have you had an opportunity to see him since school or reach out to him?
No, because he got big time. He went he was our congressman for 4 years or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he was the House of Representatives seat, and for District 7, Henrico, Hanover, Richmond area, Glen Allen, and all that. And then he got beat out in 2018. He ran as a Republican, and I don't agree with him on everything, but he's a thinker, and he pushed me in the right direction, and I love the guy with all my heart. So shout out Dave Bratt, give you my flowers. And then a friend of his, I'm not going to say his actual name because he wrote a book in a pen name. So just the fact that he wrote a book in a pen name, maybe he doesn't want his identity being public or whatever. But the pen name was Peter Monroe, and the book is called Daddy X, and it's about Malcolm X's philosophy applied to fatherhood. Called Daddy X. It's amazing, and I know him personally. I've done some work for him. He runs a website called praxiscircle.com. He's also a Republican and a Christian, and I don't always agree with those. I can't get down with all of that a lot of times, but if there's 2 Christian Republicans that I look up to and consider mentors and people that have pushed me in the right direction, Mr. Monroe and Dave Bratt would be those 2.
I was about to say there's still regardless, there's a theme to what you've been saying though.
Right.
Because I told you I already
again, yeah, exactly. You gotta sift through. You gotta sift through what resonates with you. And at the end of the day, they're talking about things that the mainstream considers taboo. So of course, ultimately, mad love and respect for both Dave Bratt and Mr. Monroe. And then last one, my friend, but I grew up with the guy. He was like my brother growing up as an only child. So got to give my flowers to Jesse Fuller. Sure. Love you, bro. Yeah. We don't, we're not like best friends or anything. We don't talk too often, but it's like a relationship where every time I talk to him, it's like catching up with my brother,
Yep.
So shout out Jesse. And then, so he's kind of like a good segue because he's like kind of a mentor, kind of an older brother. But then friends and fam, there's only a couple on here that I really want to shout out outside of my dad and my grandma. And of course, all of the people that, shaped me as a child, but there's a different level to the family that you choose, the family that you're born with, and then the family that you choose. The family that you choose it's a different level, man.
It is. And when you say it that way too, the family that you choose, you're right.
A-Dubs, love you, bro. And Timmy B, they're my brothers. That's what it is. That's what it is. Timmy B. And James. I mean, obviously, I would not have made you co-host of my podcast if I didn't feel you're a epic being, epic spirit. So give you flowers, man.
I appreciate you, bro. Same to you, man.
And then I've got a few lists here that I'm going to kind of run through. The top 25 I'll spend a little bit of time on, but these next few I'm going to run through. Unpopular but still influential: Ben Shapiro, Bill Gates, Edward Snowden, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Tom Brady, Warren Buffett. For better or worse, most of those people, I mean, Tom Brady, I have a soft spot for him just because he did the 4 agreements thing on ESPN. But obviously he's plugged into the.
It is what it is, man.
You know what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the other names on here, Elon, Bill Gates, Shapiro, a lot of people hate these people. And I disagree with them more than I agree with them. But there are lessons that I have gleaned.
It's okay
and
to
things
disagree.
Right.
Yes.
So
People need to probably, damn, bro, we don't have to agree with everything to still
Right.
respect.
I mean, even
or
Bill Gates,
learn
Bill
something.
Gates, and I mean, even Fauci could be on this list because like
Man,
they're masters in the dark realm, and that's
they
a
are,
teacher in a certain way, in one way or another. It's
Oh.
teaching us what we really are. And so
I guess you can look at it that way.
it's the balancing act, bro.
No, it is though.
So honorable mention, they didn't make the top 25. First, I'm going to go down my list that says controlled opposition ? Alex Jones, David Icke, Dave Chappelle, Paul Stamets. Paul Stamets is a fungus expert. A lot of people don't realize that he would be considered controlled opposition, but I talked to a friend and he got me on some Reddit threads and I got into a rabbit hole, and yeah, I'm pretty sure he's controlled opposition.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's talking about mycology. He's educating in some ways, again, you have to sift through the bullshit yourself, but he's talking about things that I like to talk about. So Paul Stamets, regardless of whether you're controlled op or not, give you my flowers. Shout out to you. RFK Jr. A lot of evidence he's, at least on the pro blockchain end of things, even if he is anti-vaccine and health freedom, there's Alison McDowell has exposed a lot of the dark side of the freedom. She always capitalizes the DOM because it's still a dominance colonization mindset or mindset, I think is the right word, that some of these resistance celebrities are coming from. So either way, again, controlled op or not, opening the dialogue, talking about things that are taboo, I appreciate it. So I'm going to shout you out, even if I don't all the way agree with everything you're doing. Catherine Austin Fitz, same thing. Alison actually went on her podcast, and then Alison, there's some things going on. Alison has been calling some people out lately.
I told you I follow her on Twitter, so I've been seeing there's been some scuttlebuggs.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
And if people are her whole thing is I'm standing strong on this blockchain issue because whether the cryptocurrency thing, that's again, she calls that a Trojan horse. That's not what she's worried about. What she's worried about is the fact that biological humans and children, it's one thing, she's like, it's one thing if an adult that has informed consent chooses to enter the metaverse and have a digital twin and allow all their data to be tracked, and it's not the decision that she's going to make based on the information that she has. But it's a whole different level when babies are being put on the blockchain, when kindergartners are being put on the blockchain, and that's what she's speaking out against, and I respect her for that.
I respect that too, and that's what I told you that. I said, listen, it's this is a whole nother generation that's being born into this, and it's going to be so cool and awesome, and nobody's even, especially at a young age, nobody's even, unless you're in special or chosen or something, like you're not even starting to think outside of that until like later in life, and that's the problem with a lot of they get you early, and I mean that's what it is anyway.
Yep. But so I don't want to I'm not going to tell the whole story, but basically Alison went on Catherine Austin Fitz podcast. Catherine Austin Fitz has chosen to speak at this event called the Greater Reset, which she feels is pro blockchain, and based on their advertisements, I mean, I haven't looked into that specifically enough, but just I trust Alison that she's looked into it. She's like such a deep dive researcher and just ferocious. So I trust that, she's making the right decision for herself. I might be a little bit more forgiving and lenient of people for making mistakes. I know I've made plenty, and I've changed my mind so much that maybe because of that, I'm more forgiving and more lenient of people that I might disagree with, even if I strongly disagree with them. I don't know.
Alison might be right about everything she's saying. She probably is right about everything she's saying, because look who we're dealing with.
No, I agree.
Powers that be. But I will say, I think Alison has to probably, and listen, I think I heard her say this before, and I respect this too. And I think I've said this too.
we're at a point where there is no more room for, I gotta kind of just feel it out and see because of how far we're into this.
I understand how she feels.
Yeah, I understand how she feels. Exactly. That's so I preference what I'm about to say by saying that. But I will say that we got to remember we still are dealing with going back to what I was saying. People don't know shit. They really don't, even though they think they do.
Right.
So when you get somebody so immersed in one track of it, they don't know the other stuff that Allison's probably even talking about. They could be talking about the Great Reset and how fucked up Fauci is and all of this stuff and still be.
Well, they do. No, these are resistance movement people. These are people that are, for the most part, on board with all the stuff that we talk about. The problem she has with them is they're promoting blockchain, and she's like,
I don't think
calling out. Here's the information. She addresses them directly, which is what I respect.
Okay.
And she's like, she goes right to him, and she's like, where do you stand on this position? And social impact finance, the blockchaining children, blockchaining educational records, these, and she'll ask directly. So respect. Again, maybe I'm too forgiving. I do respect Allison's point of view, and I respect that she's not willing to associate with anybody that she considers even questionable as far as supporting blockchaining people, blockchaining human beings. So shout out that she's on my top 25 list, so we'll get to her again.
Yeah.
Billy,
that was a remarkable episode you and her did together.
Thank you.
For
real. Billy Carson, the black Billy Carson.
I was about to say, is that your great grand?
No, my dad's name is Billy Carson, but there's a Billy Carson that's right. That's like a conscious influencer. He's associated with Gaia, and Gaia is actually on my quote unquote, just Gaia in general. They're on my quote unquote controlled op list, but at the same time, they're talking about a lot of things that
exactly. I mean, you have a whole network dedicated to the alternative. I mean, that's enough right there. You have a whole network.
But Alison would say there's a lot of blockchain people in there. So, I mean, I get it. I get that too. JP Sears, he's a comedian that I still think he's funny, but he's just gone too far pro-Trump for me lately. I don't know what's up with him, but I still like him. I still think he
picked a side.
Yeah, no, I know, but I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like picking.
I don't like it either. But I can tell you one thing. I can tell you what side ain't being picked.
I agree, but for me,
I get it, G. If it's one,
it always comes back to the immortal technique bar. I don't see a difference in between the wrong and the wrong.
No, you're right, but
that's it. I know. Right. There's no but for me, because fuck the Republicans. I feel this strongly.
No, fuck them all.
When I say fuck the Republicans, I mean it as strongly as when I say fuck the Democrats.
Fuck them all. But I think I am to the point now where I do think I don't care what surface people. Oh, what are you talking about? How could you say what you're saying because I'm a liberal and I'm such a shit? I get what the normal, everyday, average citizen that's a liberal is. You have no idea. So I get it. Like, you're probably fine. I get it. I'm talking about the people that know what's up, that know and are liberal. It's different. It's different. Oh, James, you're a conservative. It has nothing to do with that once again, because we got to clearly always remind these sheep that it has nothing to do with choosing a side, but it is pointing out one side very hard because with me it hits a little differently personally. But anyway, I'm not ranting, G.
No, it is what it is.
Wrong is wrong.
Well, the next two, look, as long as we're on this political rant, I might as well name these next two. Ron Paul and Andrew Yang. They're probably the only two politicians that I've ever felt like I support. Again, after the fact, down the road, I have many more disagreements with them these days than I did when I was more supportive of them. But either way, they've both impacted me. They're the only two politicians that have ever written books that I've read. I read The Revolution by Ron Paul, as well as End the Fed by Ron Paul. And I liked both books. Again, as I grew older, some of the ideas became less and less favorable to me, I guess. You mean like less and less appealing.
Ideas?
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, they still, again, they opened my mind in different ways. And Andrew Yang, He wrote a book called The War on Normal People. Allison would probably hate me for giving any sort of love to Andrew Yang, because he's definitely on the pro technocrat end of things.
I'm not a big fan.
I'm not a big Yang fan anymore, but there are some ideas in that book.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can always sift through and find the nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, shit. There's shit I like Trump say.
I agree. I agree with that. But I still don't like. I don't like his character. I don't like
crazy.
I don't like Trump's character. I don't like his.
No, I feel you. A lot of people don't like Trump's character. I personally, I don't know, man. I've grown.
I know how you feel about him, but I still don't.
With me. I just think we're in a moment with the people, with the powers that be, where, and listen, I get it. He's plugged into the powers that be. But my point is, you can't passive ain't working no more. That's why, at the same token, I feel Alison, even with the statement I was about to say before, where it was like, I remember one pod we did, I think it was when I was sitting outside and I had something was going on that day. And I was like, you either get it or you don't. Like we're at a point now after this whole COVID thing, there is no more like, oh, I'm gonna dip my toe in and kind of, nah, man, there's no more excuses. I think I was just ranting about how there's no more excuses. You got to get it now, because what are we doing? Like dipping your toe in was what should have been happening forever ago, so we wouldn't even be here today, but we are here today.
I feel you, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Foster Gamble. Okay, so this is most people are going to say that's obvious controlled op there. He's heir to the Procter and Gamble fortune, but he did a documentary called Thrive, and again, controlled op or not, there's a lot of good information in that documentary. I thought it was a really good one. So,
hey, once again, sometimes people are born into things and they actually do feel and look at things differently than they're taught or bred to look at it.
And he tells his story at the beginning of that documentary, and that's pretty much, you nailed it. He said he didn't like the way that his elitist family and circle ran, so he kind of did his own thing.
I pretty much know that same thing that happened with Princess Diana. And that's different because she married into that she wasn't, so that's different. But I think it's very similar to where some other people on that hierarchy tree are at too, like the granddaughter of the Rothschild that's fucking dating Jay Electronica right now. Now, granted, she could just be what they call a handler for all I know, but
yeah,
I just find it very hard to believe that Jay Electronica is being handled. I just can't wrap my brain around that. So I don't think that's what's happening. So anyway, all I'm saying is we see that often, where it is not out of the realm of possibility that somebody could be born into an elitist family and still look around as they grow up and be like, what the fuck? This shit is nuts. What is this? So,
No, I definitely understand that.
Controlled op or not, you just can't shun them out, listen, and make your own discernment.
Greg Braden, he's actually the host of a show called Missing Links on Gaia. But yeah, I really appreciate him. Again, another one that may be controlled op, but I'm so sick of that fucking term. It's like, just figure it out yourself. Like if you have a specific issue with something that they've done or said, then bring up that specific issue. Don't say they're associated with Gaia, so he's automatically controlled op. Like, that's such a lazy argument. I'm tired of that shit. Like, I understand they might be controlled op. I'm not even disagreeing with you. Just like specifically address what you don't like. Like, don't just try to undermine their character, or like just try to be dismissive of them. Period.
Exactly.
Like, I don't
exactly.
Eric Dubé, the flat earth guy. I brought him up earlier, so not much more to say there. Albert Hoffman, he discovered LSD. Alex Gray, he is a psychedelic artist that runs a mission or an art facility, kind of I don't know what you would call it, a retreat up in upstate New York called the Cosmic of Sacred Mirrors, or the Cosmos of Sacred Mirrors, or something like that. But he's trippy. His art is, just type in Alex Gray art and just do a Google image search and you'll be like, whoa. Chris Bennett, he's like a a cannabis expert, I would say. He did a Ben Stewart podcast, so I'll put that in the description. But that's the main reason. That's the reason I heard about him, and he was just cannabis is a love of mine. So yeah, he was great. Daniel Pinchback, he's an author. I read two of his books from back in the day, Breaking Open the Head and 2012, The Return of Quetzalcoatl. And both of those books were pretty good. They're out there, but they're good. Dr. Rick Straussman, he was the guy that did the DMT experiments back in the 90s. Dr. Roland Griffith, he's done work with psilocybin and microdosing. Duncan Trussell, he does podcasts. He's like a comedian. He's been on Joe Rogan a lot. I just find him funny, and I just kind of like with him. The reason he made the list for me is I just like his disposition. Like I like his energy. He's just like happy-go-lucky. Like he's curious, but he's like not taking anything too serious, and he's kind of funny. Like I like his vibe. Hamilton Morris, Jack Harrer. Jack Harrer is a cannabis legend. He wrote Emperor Wears No Clothes. Hamilton Morris is just a drug expert in general, like both natural and pharmaceutical. Joe Martino, he runs a website called Collective Evolution, which is in the resistance movement. People might say controlled op again, but whatever. John Anthony West, he's an Egyptologist. He was on Joe Rogan twice. Both of those episodes are really good. He's an older fella, but he's definitely got that old school swag, just straight to the point, dry humor, cuts to the bone type of no shit, no bullshit type of mindset or the way he expresses himself. John Cassiopo, he's a loneliness expert. So as the guy who started the Alienation podcast, I had to give my flowers to Dr. John Cassiopo or Capiopo. The only reason I heard of him is because of Johan Hari, who I'll talk about later. Jonathan Haidt, he wrote a book called Why Are Good People Divided on Religion and Politics? Pretty good book. He's also done a lot of research into like he went to UVA and he was a liberal, but then now he's more conservative, but not even really.
Anybody
he's more like a moderate.
from what I hear, you grow up, become an adult, you become more conservative. Usually that's how that happens.
Yeah, but he's a like a psychological, like the way he thinks is very psychological. So he broke down like why people are liberal, why people are Republican. It's a good book.
I've seen studies on that too. Yeah,
it's good. Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. Good stuff. I mentioned Judy Mikovits earlier, virologist. She wrote a book called The Plague of Corruption in 2019, which is hilarious. Knowing what we know now with COVID, if you go and read that book, it's like it doesn't seem that surprising. It's like it's almost like, damn, I knew it was corrupt, like blah blah blah. But when you realize that she wrote it the year before COVID, it's just like almost mind-blowing. Julian Assange, WikiLeaks. What else can you say there?
Yep.
Michael Rupert, he's committed suicide back in the mid 2000s, but he was the guy that broke the CIA drug trafficking story back in the day. About CIA smuggling crack into LA. Nassim Harriman, he's like he calls himself a universal physicist or a unified field theory physicist, but he's just a smart dude. He's a little bit too heady for me, and I'm pretty smart, so unless you're a really smart person, maybe don't worry about him. But if you're out there and you're one of the intellectual people out there listening, Nassim Harriman, mind-blowing. Ram Dass, LSD guy from back in the day. Mindfulness and meditation awareness are kind of his themes. Randall Carlson, a geologist that talks about the last ice age. And he talks about some like ancient civilizations, and in the same realm as Graham Hancock and John Anthony West and Robert Bauval, Robert Scotch, who I both have on here. Randy Kramer, this is a name I had asterisks because this is a name that most people probably have not heard. He does, I forget, if you type in Randy Kramer Gaia on Google, you'll find, now you'll have to subscribe to Gaia or at least do the free trial. But Randy Kramer tells a story on one of those Gaia episodes about his life, his own life, and it's just I don't even want to spoil it. Just type in Randy Kramer Gaia super soldier might help. The word super soldier. And if you want to try the free trial, or if you already have Gaia, check that out. Just fascinating is what that's the word, fascinating. Sam Tripoli, podcaster, tin foil hat podcast.
Oh yeah.
I don't listen to all of the podcasts that he does, but he gets great guests on every now and then.
Yeah.
So whenever he gets a
No,
guest
there's
on
some
that I've
great
heard
episodes on there.
or is talking about a topic that I feel really interested about, I'll check it out. The only ancient person I have on here, Socrates. I fuck with Socrates because when he died, he said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing," and I fucking love that quote.
I literally gee, seriously.
Perfect, right?
Yep.
Stanislav Grof, he did a lot of LSD research in the 70s, 60s, 70s. Timothy Leary, another LSD icon from Harvard. So that's pretty much that. Now I want to just finish by doing the top 25. Number one, and this is where I'm going to share my screen. This is the whole reason why I brought up all of these so earlier that you were making fun of me for.
That's why.
So I already mentioned Pyramid Realm on Twitter. Check out Pyramid Realm. I like his content. Wide of Vision, I already mentioned. Check out his content. And then here's where we get into my top 25. Again, this is not, it's a very loose order. It's I just kind of threw this together, but they're definitely, loosely from 25 to 1. It's not a hard and fast order, but shout out Conspiracy. He's got his own website, but you can go on here, conspiracy.com. He's got some merch on here, which that's pretty tight, man. Congrats to you for getting that started.
I've liked what Chris has done.
I like it. One thing about Chris, and I think this is the time for me to say it, is he's like, I'll just go ahead and admit it. He does a better job as far as producing the podcast. And I think he has more of a hunger and a desire to be like a professional podcaster. Where for me,
I think it comes kind of natural for him based off of the timeline in which we started following him. And I could just, you can hear it and how he even does his.
And for me, to circle back to something that we were talking about a little bit at the beginning of the show, for me, this is not a professional endeavor. Again, I'm going to talk about gift economy here in a second when I get to Charles Eisenstein. But, I'm not going to turn down any donations if people feel like I'm doing such a great job with the podcast that they want to support me. I am willing to accept any donations gratefully. But at the same time, I'm not going to turn this into a business. This is a therapy session for me when I get on here with you, or when I get on with a guest that I'm pretty selective, even as far as my high profile guests. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound braggadocious either. There have been a couple people that I reached out to that didn't respond, or that, with, Nick Hinton, we got him on and there was some confusion. The internet was, of course, not working. It was being weird.
Yeah.
But shout out Nick. He'll be on my list too. So I'm going to get to you in a minute, Nick. But anyways, my point is, I'm not just trying to get, it's not a guest-based podcast. This is, for the most part, a me and you podcast at this point. That's why I changed the name to the Balancing Act. And this is therapy for me. So this has got a different purpose than what Chris is trying to do. But at the same time, I love what Chris is doing. So I wanted to give him his flowers. Next, obviously, the king of podcasting, Joe Rogan. We've already talked about it, so I'm not going to, we don't have to rehash everything that we've already said about Joe Rogan, but just controlled opposition or not,
just great at what he does.
Just an amazing work, man. He's done almost 1,800 podcasts now.
I know.
That's astounding, straight up.
Yeah, it really is.
So shout out Joe Rogan. I don't always listen, just like my Twitter bio says, a retweet is an endorsement of the tweet, not the tweeter.
I wish he would get Jim Carrey on. I feel like Jim Carrey has been wanting to tell people what he really wants people to know for so long, but he just he does, but then he doesn't, and he can't, but he tries, but then he really can't. It's really weird. I just think that Rogan Rogan could make him. More people need to shout out to. Speaking of giving flowers, shout out to Noriega and Drink Champs and what that has grown to now.
Yeah.
And like, what's so
DJ
interesting-
EFN. I'm sorry, DJ EFN. I
yeah.
Everybody
Him too.
likes Nori. Everybody likes Nori, but I probably wouldn't even watch Drink Champs if it wasn't for EFN. Nori, I don't know. I know he's a legend. I know he's a legend. He's well respected, and he gets
and
great
not only
guests
that,
on.
he's real and authentic, and all of that you probably don't like about Nori is because he's not super refined. He's rough, and I like that.
That's real. That's real. That's real.
You know what I'm saying? But what I was going to say about the pod was, what's so good about it is that it's like, first of all, more people, you would get more truth out of more people if they got drunk. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
That's real.
Imagine getting Jim Carrey ass on Rogan.
Well, Rogan gives bourbon.
Rogan does drink.
They'll
drink.
They'll drink on Rogan.
They drink sometime. But just imagine getting Carey sauced up. I bet you wouldn't see no more Carey. Carey would be in so much trouble if he got sauced up. But I don't know, something about that. Just when you said that, just made me.
No, Jim Carrey deserves his flowers too. There's in fact on that King ISO album that I've shot out a couple times, Dementia. The number one, in fact, it's King ISO's most popular song in general, and it happens to be on that album. It's called Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
It's a great song. You should check it out.
There's something very intriguing and interesting to me about Carey, and I think that he wants so badly to be on our side. It's just, I don't know if he can.
I feel you.
Yeah, just as he's so far, But anyway, go ahead. Zeitgeist.
Before I even get to Zeitgeist, Thich Nhat Hanh, he's an author. He wrote a book called Living Buddha, Living Christ, and he actually has a term called interbeing, which is another term that Charles Eisenstein has picked up himself, but he gives Thich Nhat Hanh credit for coining the term. But I love that term. I feel like we are one being, and I'm like I'm one cell in the being that is humanity. So that idea was just most clearly, or one of the most clearly ways of painting that picture for me was Thich Nhat Hanh in a book called Living Buddha, Living Christ. And he's talking about, the title is alluding to all of us have a living Buddha and a living Christ within us, and we don't need to look to an external Christ or an external Buddha for our salvation. Amazing stuff. Number 22, Paul Joseph. He is the director of the film, or the filmmaker for Zeitgeist, which you can find on YouTube for free. And I will put the link in the description. If you haven't already watched Zeitgeist, most people I feel like have that are watching this podcast have probably heard of Zeitgeist.
At least heard of it,
because it's it's classic as far as the resistance community or the truth community. We got to figure out what we're going to call ourselves.
We do need to coin a term.
The
At
seers.
This point, G, we could come up with our own.
I like the
term
seers. The
see if
seers.
it catches.
What about the
Seers?
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 The seers. C.
Oh, the seers.
C.
Yeah, I do.
SEERS. The seers.
Seers. I've definitely talked about seeing a lot. I mean, once you see, you can't unsee.
You always talk about it. Now you see me, now you don't. That movie. I've heard you talk about that a lot. You talked about it on the Human Vibration episode. You talked about it with me a couple times.
Bro, I just think because
just
something
you can't. Once you put words on what you see, you've already distorted it.
Exactly. But you know it when you see it. You see it. You like, oh, that whole movie was just layering. I know Human Vibration talks about templates so much. She talks about templates so much. And to me, now you see me as a template for just the illusionist that control this society.
Hell yeah. 21, John Chavez. He made a documentary with Ben Stewart called DMT Quest. He also wrote a book called Questions for the Lion Tamer, diving into the mystery that is DMT. No nonsense type of personality. I kind of like his style. John Chavez, check him out. I'm going to put the link.
That's why you like Mike Tomlin so much.
Right? Which of course we know that's all an act. That, NFL. We've got a whole episode coming up about that. We don't need to go into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
We got a whole episode.
Damn, I think I see where you're going with it though. Yeah. Like they're playing these characters. All right, anyway.
So yeah, next on my list, Rizza Islam. You know about Rizza Islam.
Hmm. I swear there's a side of me that probably would be Islamic if I wasn't, if I was a little bit more disciplined. But I look, regardless of the super religious aspect of it, I'm not even getting into that. The fact that these brothers is disciplined.
This is one video that he won me over with. He went on Sway in the Morning.
Yep.
And he brought the receipts, like we talk about with Alison McDowell. She's got the receipts. He's got the receipts.
Oh, this is specifically, I'm looking at the title now, G. This is specifically about that.
Yeah. Wow, so I'm gonna link this in the description as well. This is the Rizza Islam interview on Sway's Universe, Sway in the Morning, back in 2019. But yeah, I mean, it's on my favorites playlist.
Let me ask you.
So one more thing though, because it just reminded me. Check out my YouTube playlist. I spend time building those playlists. The favorites are, not our creation. The favorites list is just my favorites across all of YouTube. And there's I only put about 20, 30 in there. So I was picky with my favorites.
Right.
There's a lot more than 20 or 30 that I could have put on there.
Right.
I've got a whole playlist just for Ben Stewart stuff. And then I've got a whole playlist just for Ben Stewart's Waking Infinity series. I got a lot of respect for him. He's going to be higher on the list, of course, coming up. I've got a whole playlist for Alison McDowell, which most of that playlist is clips from our episode. But there are some clips from other podcasts that she's done that I felt were to the point. And then I've got a Human Vibration playlist, which is from the 2 episodes we did together, as well as a couple of clips from me and you talking about Loosh, as well as me and Conspiracy talking about Loosh. And then there's the whole playlist that's our story. Anyhow, check out all of my playlists on my YouTube channel.
Let me ask you a quick question before you move on from this one, G. I feel like if a lot of what Alison talks about and somebody like brother, what's his name?
Islam. Rizza Islam.
Brother, okay. Well, somebody like him talking about don't vaccinate your children. There has to be, when both people are basically on the same side, right? There has to be, if there's truth to these things, to his lane and her lane, there has to be, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to sit, for example, both of them down and hear a lot of the same stuff. When you listen to him on Sway, is a lot of what he's talking about why not to vaccinate your children relative to a lot of the theories that are coming from or facts or theory, whatever you want to call them, is coming from Alison by any chance? Without giving the whole episode away, I'm just saying, like, is he talking about, the social contracts and a lot of those reasons?
I don't know. No, I mean that interview's from 2019, so a lot of the topics that Alison
haven't even came up yet.
So brand new,
Oh,
I mean,
so
it's not, but it's just like Alison said, they're not actually brand new if you've been.
But basically, all of what he was talking about was for vaccines in general.
Right.
Got you. Of course. Oh,
but he brought the receipts. But he brought the receipts.
More COVID thing.
So no, he brought the receipts. He brought the receipts. He brought the receipts. Just watch that. Just watch it. I'll link it in the description. Just watch it.
I'm not going to hamper on this, but just to throw something out there, this is what I'm talking about when I was saying sometimes you don't need to be coddled or handheld to know something ain't right. All you got to do is look at all these people that have these issues and illnesses and these crazy things that weren't happening when my dad and your dad were growing up, and like, all you got to do is point to like, what's the, it's just like with Washington. They suck. Why do they suck? Well, who's the constant in the room of why they suck? It's the same thing for all of this stuff. It's like, what's the constant? When we started getting 25 shots a day from being a kid, a lot of stuff started. But anyway, I'm not ranting on that. Go ahead, G.
Yeah. So number 19 is Dr. Cassie Huckabee. She's a holistic doctor, homeopathic.
My fave.
I heard about her from the Ben Stewart podcast. So I'm gonna I follow her on Instagram now. But basically she says your life is your medicine. It's we are naturally our body is designed to be healthy. It's more about stop eating the bad foods that are preventing you from being healthy. Start stretching, start moving consciously.
Right.
She's wonderful. So yeah, just check her out. Number 18, Ricky Williams. Dude, Ricky Williams, former running back, Miami Dolphins, New Orleans Saints, Texas running back. When he left football to become a holistic doctor, that was a moment where I started questioning things a little bit. I'll admit, when it first happened, I was like, "What is he doing?" I was still.
We all did. We weren't even close to being there yet, G. And I remember that I was thinking the same thing. I was like, "Man, look at this brother messing his life." We all thought this is what we're conditioned to look at when people step outside of the norm.
So his story, I'm not going to go too deep into Ricky Williams, but his story is just an amazing story to me. I love him as a person. I think he's just so genuine. Listening to him talk, he's just everything that I like about human beings, man. He's just a genuine human being, and I love Ricky Williams. One quick story that I'll tell, when he first did that, he did a 60 Minutes interview with Chris Wallace, and Chris Wallace asked, "Do you do anything worse than marijuana?" And he was like, "Well, sweets." And Chris Wallace was like, "Sweets?" He was like, "Yeah, cakes, cookies, ice cream." And the look on Chris Wallace's face was
puns. These pundits, man. I mean, for him, do you do anything worse? These are the people running. I've got to get better at being able.
But what an answer!
Very true. Very true. Very true. So I would have blew up on his ass, and Ricky's like, "Sweets."
So matter of factly.
Yeah, right.
Matter of factly, like he wasn't saying anything weird. Like he was saying the truth, and it was not. It wasn't even controversial in his mind. He was just saying it so flatly and so cake and ice cream and cookies is way worse for me. Duh. Like it was just a fact. And it was just, and knowing what we know now, it is just a fact.
Yeah.
But in 2005, 2000, whatever,
ahead of his time
2004.
Ahead of his time with it.
So Ricky Williams, got to give you.
How do you get these things to say number 15 and all this stuff, G?
That's Ben. This is the way he titled the podcast. This is Ben's podcast.
This is Ben's podcast.
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. This is a YouTube browser, and this is number. Well, I shouldn't have him here because I actually have him higher on the list. But number 9 for me was Robert Forte. Number 15 this was just the 15th podcast on Ben Stewart's podcast.
I saw other numbers too, and I was just like,
that was a Ben Stewart podcast. That was Cassie Huckabee was the 25th one on the Ben Stewart podcast. That's all that number is. There's not going to be numbers on the ones that aren't Ben Stewart podcasts.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So anyways, we're gonna skip around here, folks. But number 9 on my list is this guy, Robert Forte. As somebody that loves psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD, MDMA, this interview was like, I had never heard of the guy before Ben had him on, and this is by far my favorite Ben Stewart podcast so far. He's done like 34. The most recent one is up there. The most recent one is in my top 5 with a guy named Andreas Nicholas, and he's a Tartarian historian of the Great Tartarian Empire. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
Tartaria. Yeah, you should check him out. But I don't even have him on this list because I just watched that the other day. This list isn't even that updated yet, but yeah, that was a great one. Andreas Nicholas and this guy, Robert Forte, man, this guy, anybody who's interested in the history of MDMA, specifically MDMA, he's like a super expert in that one specific drug, but also like LSD, just the whole psychedelic movement of the 60s and 70s. This guy is the most articulated. He just blew me away, dude. That podcast is amazing. So I'm gonna put that link in there.
Yep.
Let's see.
Dude,
Graham
just
Hancock.
as much fun with this list as the listeners.
Graham Hancock is he's a guy that
I've heard you bring him up before.
He's written a lot of books. He wrote Fingerprints of the Gods and Magician of
Yep.
the Gods. Those are two of his most popular books. But he's ancient Atlantis, ancient civilization theorist. He's been on Rogan 4 or 5 times, which is, I already scrolled past it, but he was on here somewhere. But anyways, Graham Hancock, right here we go. Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, but he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast several times. He's also got a banned TED Talk, which is this right here called The War on Consciousness, which this is really awesome.
Banned?
A banned TED Talk. Yeah, man. Amazing stuff.
I like things that are banned.
So
I
yeah,
need to see that immediately.
Just a great, well, there's 2 of them. My very next one, my very next person on here, Rupert Sheldrake.
Mhm.
Only other person that I know who has a banned TED Talk called The Science Delusion.
He's also banning them. Is YouTube banning them?
Ted has banned them.
Oh, Ted banning them. Why? Has he come
Too
out and said
controversial. Too controversial.
Yeah.
Oh, TED is an organization, not a person, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Ted,
and then it looks like I skipped it, but there was number 17. Her name is Christine Summers. It looks like I missed it on here, so I will come back to that, or I'll just put the link in the description and not worry about that for now. But her name is Christine Summers, and the one link that I'll provide is she did a Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan 724, and she talks about, she was a feminist in the 60s and 70s, and she's still a feminist, but she calls herself a classical feminist, and she has quite the critique of modern feminism, which I think she's spot on. Richard
she is.
Richard Dolan, he is as far as UFO or alien stuff, he's the guy that I go to. I think he's the most well versed in that side of things. So Richard Dolan, check him out. And of course, couldn't go without giving my flowers to the great and wonderful Human Vibration. Check her Twitter out. If you have Instagram, check her out on Instagram.
Continuing to grow too, up to 41.5 now. Oh boy.
Awesome, right? She was like 22,000 when I first
when I came.
her.
Yeah, like 50, like 18 for me or something. I don't know, but yeah.
So I have a whole, as I mentioned earlier, playlist of the Human Vibration clips on my YouTube channel. So check this out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This is my Ben Stewart channel. Kymatica is at the top of the list. There's a Bruce Lipton interview. Bruce Lipton is actually the next person on my list, which is why I had this browser here. This clip specifically, this is the whole interview that he did with Bruce Lipton for Kymatica. Parts of this interview are in the actual documentary, but this is the whole uncut interview, and it's absolutely amazing. This interview alone put Bruce Lipton on my list. Although he's done some other things. He's on Gaia. He's written some books that I've read. So this isn't the only thing, like with some of the other people I've mentioned previously, but this interview in particular is probably my favorite piece of information that Bruce Lipton has been a part of. And of course, Ben Stewart is connected to it. But continuing down the list, as I mentioned earlier, Ben Stewart did a documentary called Ungrip, which follows the life of a gentleman named, he now goes by Rob of the Paget family, because if you break down maritime admiralty law, I mean, even our name is corporatized, you know? And so like you are James Harris, the corporation. And so that's why he specifically goes by Rob of the Paget family, other than Rob Paget, because Rob Paget is the corporation that represents the natural person, Rob of the Paget family. So that's I mean, Ungrip is amazing. Again, all of the Ben Stewart documentaries are amazing, but the reason I bring that up is to tie in. This may be the best 14 or 15 minutes on the internet, period. Jordan Maxwell, maritime admiralty law. I just, he breaks down, it's word magic stuff. This is all about word magic. So definitely check out that clip. Shout out Nick Hinton. I mean, he's like a king in the conspiracy truther resistance realm. He's written a couple of books. One was called the Saturn Time Cube Simulation, and another one is called the Aquarian Singularity.
Yeah, man.
Both books.
Both books are great. I mean, I haven't read them. Like you've read them, I think, but I've got the foreword on a lot of them and bounced through them. It's funny because I don't even think Nick. I think Nick was like, I don't know if these guys. I think Nick is so out there that he probably thought we were like fucking with him or something.
Yeah, no, I know. But I love the guy, so I got to give him the flowers.
For sure, absolutely. Are you kidding me? One of my
I am gonna ask him to get back on the podcast eventually.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask him to get on at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
It didn't work out on our first attempt, but we love you, Nick.
Yep, absolutely, man. One of the first follows when I got on this joint.
Yep. And he has his own website. So Nick Hinton with 2Ns.com. Then you can buy his book on here. Yeah, man, I like the way he thinks, the way he writes his narrative, so to speak.
Yep.
Robert Forte, I already brought him up. Now, this is the one where I do want to spend just a little bit of time. Charles Eisenstein, Alison McDowell called him out recently because he's going to be a speaker at the Greater Resistance 3 Summit, an event with a bunch of crypto bros and other people that have different various worldviews in regard to how to resist the new world order, the deep state, whatever you want to call this vaccination movement. And Allison's not with them because she's like so anti-blockchain that anything associated with like pro-blockchain companies or projects, she's just hard no. And I respect that. And most of the people that she has called out, Glenn Greenwald, RFK Jr., Derek Bros, Catherine Austin Fitts, I look into it and everything that she says checks out. With Charles Eisenstein, I have to defend him a little bit. I have to also be fair to Alison. She hasn't directly attacked Charles or gone after him in the same way that she went after some of the other people. But she just posted a clip of Charles Eisenstein podcast that he did with a guy called Aubrey Marcus, where it does seem like Charles is downplaying the concern of anti-blockchain people like Alison McDowell, or the social impact finance people like Alison McDowell. And I understand where Alison is like, that's not good that he's downplaying that. It's definitely an important issue. I agree with her. It's an important issue. But if you follow Charles and you actually listen to a lot of the things that he's saying, it is pretty consistent with his worldview, because he's kind of like a more spiritual, like, if he, the way he sees it is like the resistance or like Alison McDowell's response is almost, she might be saying all the true things, all facts, but his, I guess, perspective on that is that like trying to control it is just like trying to grab water.
Yeah, but it kind of is.
And yeah, exactly. So his point is that we should just surrender and not necessarily surrender like our souls, but just focus on creating the positive aspects of our story.
Right.
And because I've read, so the main reason I'm also a little defensive of Charles is he wrote a book called Sacred Economics, and he proposes a couple of ideas in there that the main one is gift economy. And that connects to what I was talking about earlier with like, I'm not really trying to be professional with this podcast. I'm more about making this therapy session, using my voice, getting things off my chest that I need to get off, telling my story, listening to your story, allowing you to do the same things that I just said about myself. And building a community I don't care if that, I'm not worried about building my community. As long if it happens organically, of course it's still a goal, but at the same time, I feel like when you strive to build a community, that's when you attract the parasites, so it is what it is. And you got to have some way of vetting the bad apples from getting into your community,
This is true.
But his book, he's got a few good ones, but this one right here, Sacred Economics, man, if you're an economic person, if you're a money person at all, this is really just amazing piece of work. And that's why, you know, I want to be a part of the emergent gift economy. And so anybody who wants to donate to the podcast, I accept that as willingly as I give out my money to people like Ben Stewart. It's you know, it's not about putting up a paywall. It's about, for me, it's like I'm gonna give you my voice, and if you appreciate it so much that you want to pay me, I'm not gonna be like this altruistic, like meditating monk in Tibetan mountains, and like your money's no good here. No,
Right.
I'll take your money, but at the same time, I'm not focused on turning this podcast into a business. The purpose for me is to keep it real, to be a therapy, you know, to be a therapy session like we talked about. So that's why I defend Charles, even though I do appreciate where Alison's coming from. Terrence McKenna, he has passed away, but one of the biggest influences on my worldview in general. We Plants Are Happy Plants is a YouTube channel that has a lot of digital Terrence McKenna footage. And so check out We Plants Are Happy Plants on YouTube. I'll have that in the description as well. But that's like my biggest Terrence McKenna resource. He also wrote 2 books. One is called The Archaic Revival, and the other one is called Food of the Gods. They're both, you know, if you're interested in magic mushrooms, ayahuasca, DMT, LSD, marijuana, and this sort of countercultural consciousness exploration, Terrence McKenna is the man. Chris Ryan, he has a podcast called Tangentially Speaking. I think he's a pretty good podcaster, but I actually appreciate his books much more than his podcasts. He wrote a couple of books. One is called Sex at Dawn, and it's about you of all people need to
You told me about this one.
because you question monogamy, and that book dismantles monogamy as a natural institution. So
yeah,
that's a good one. And then he wrote another one called Civilized to Death that I bought but have yet to read. But Sex at Dawn is a top 5 book for me. So Chris Ryan, love you, man, giving you your flowers. Alison McDowell, of course, we've talked about her throughout this episode, so I don't want to spend too much more time, but she is a unique and wonderful soul. And if there's anything her and I strongly agree on, it's the importance of the indigenous worldview and you know, seeing natural life as something that is priceless.
all right.
Johan Hari. All right, this guy wrote a book called Lost Connections, which is another top 5 book for me. But he also has 2 TED Talks. And as far as TED Talks that are not banned, these are probably the 2 best TED Talks that are not banned in TED's library. One is called Everything You Think You Know About Addiction is Wrong. And the other one is called This Is Why You Could Be Anxious or Depressed.
We had a very long convo about that first book, G, coming back when I was driving back from somewhere. I just vividly remember we were talking about it on the phone.
And both of those clips are in my favorites playlist. You'll see I've got this playlist pulled up here. I've got the Graham Hancock Band TED Talk, Rupert Sheldrake Band TED Talk, Riza Islam on Sway, both of Johan Hari's TED Talks, Dr. Quantum animations. This one I'm going to remove. That's not creme de la creme right there. The Power of the Heart. Those 3 minutes. That's an amazing 3 minutes right there. There's Mike Rupert, as I mentioned earlier. He's talking to on behalf of the Black community in Los Angeles, and this is the 5.5 minutes that exposed the CIA's connection to the Contras in Nicaragua and the cocaine trafficking that was going on at the time.
So many people trust in this country.
And anyways, this whole list here of favorite clips are some pretty awesome stuff. But let me go ahead and continue. Daniel Quinn, now he's from the old school. He did do a couple of podcasts, but I gotta say, his books, he articulates himself writing much better than he does as a podcast guest. But this is his website, ishmael.org. These 3 books, Ishmael, The Story of B, and My Ishmael, some of my favorite books ever. Beyond Civilization is kind of a pragmatic look at the worldview that he spells out in these three amazingly written
I see.
stories. And then Tales of Adam, those are some short stories that are pretty awesome that I've read. I'm gonna read all of his stuff because he's just such a good writer. But The Holy is also another one that I read. That one is a pretty awesome book, especially if you're into Satanism at all. He actually kind of paints Satanism in a good light. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've read. Yeah, we'll have a pod about that stuff too.
Number two, and you guys might be surprised he's only number two because as much as I talk about him, Ben Stewart, like this guy, he is just amazing. There's not, I can't say enough good things about him. Again, we talk about controlled opposition. Ben is associated with Gaia, so there are some people out there that are going to be like, oh, he's controlled opposition. Whatever, think what you want. I'm not gonna. I disagree when it comes to Ben. He's like me. He's always questioning himself.
My thing is, even if he was this, look, the stuff that he's making and the information that he should. I'm not going to say even if he was. I shouldn't say that because some controlled ops are actually leading you away from anything of substance, but. I mean, that once again, you got to be able to feel that out, man. I mean, some of the stuff that I've seen from Ben and hearing him talk. I mean, listen, I know part of being good at that, you know, like Obama, for example, is to win you over that way. But I don't know, man. So like I said, sometimes you got to be able to just have it hit your heart, and you've got.
It resonates with me, man. Way his worldview. Everything about him, it's to me, he's like in a more advanced version of me because he thinks even the way that I think. It's like it blows my mind, you know. But he's all like, you know, he's less of a pothead, I guess, and so he's like retaining information.
That's the.
He's just on a different level than me.
On a different level, yeah, man. Barely drinks. You're already different when you can do all that because
I know.
Yeah,
he's just He's the fucking last airbender, bro. He's the Avatar, I think.
Well, it's not like the universe hasn't given us these people exist out here. We got to find them.
He's amazing, dude. I don't care. I don't care. He, you know, controlled opposition, whatever. I don't care. Like, just listen to what he's saying and decide for yourself. So that's how I feel about him. I mean, I have two whole playlists dedicated to just his work. So that just alone tells you how I feel. Got to give my flowers to Ben. Thank you again, Ben. And as much as I love Ben, he's number two on my list. Number one, of course, Don Miguel Ruiz and both of his sons. Let's throw them in there. Don Miguel Jr., Don Jose. I just beyond words, man. I've read this one. It's called A Return to Unconditional Love. Eros, A Return to Unconditional Love. That's his newest book. The Actor, another amazing book. The Three Questions is a great book. The Toltec Art of Life and Death. That would not get my highest recommendation out of all of his books. It's good. I mean, everything he writes is good. But The Fifth Agreement, that's amazing. That's his son. He wrote it with his son, Don Jose. That's amazing. The Four Agreements, amazing. The Mastery of Love, amazing. The Voice of Knowledge, amazing. Beyond Fear, absolutely mind-shattering and amazing.
Yeah, I bet anything Beyond Fear.
The 5 Levels of Attachment by Junior, Mastery of Self by Junior, both amazing. 7 Secrets to a Happy, Healthy Relationship. That one, I liked it. Maybe not my highest recommendation out of all of these, but that's up there. Fifth Agreement, as far as Don Jose is a little different than Don Miguel and Don Jr. A lot of his, like the Medicine Bag, the Wisdom of the Shamans, those are more like practices, exercises.
Right.
And My Good Friend the Rattlesnake, that's like a series of short stories. Haven't read Shamanic Power Animals yet. And but the Fifth Agreement, that one it just takes the 4 agreements to another level, man.
Really?
Out of all the ones I've named, the Fifth Agreement and Beyond Fear and The Voice of Knowledge. Man, all of those are so good. There's some of them that are just creme de la creme, you know?
Right.
And I think the Four Agreements obviously is the first one I would recommend to anybody who's not already familiar with his work. But beyond that, the Fifth Agreement, The Voice of Knowledge, The Mastery of Love, and Beyond Fear, those are just the best of the
Like
best,
that.
man. The best of the best. So that's
awesome.
that's almost all of my flowers, man. That's pretty much it. Just I'm gonna wrap the rest of it up real quick because I've already mentioned most of this anyway. But favorite books, obviously, number one, I just mentioned pretty much all of the ones that I just named would be my number one. Number two, I talked about it a little bit earlier with Daniel Quinn and his Ishmael trilogy. I talked about that, as well as the book The Holy, which is the one that kind of talks about Satanism in a positive light. Number three, I mentioned it already, Johann Hari, Lost Connections, about mental health, anxiety, depression, loneliness. Amazing book. Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan, another one that I just mentioned. There's a theme here. I just mentioned all these. Number five, Terrence McKenna, Food of the Gods and Archaic Revival, another one that I just mentioned. But then some other ones that maybe I didn't just mention. Word Magic by Paul Chow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. My Big Toe. Now that one is for the intellectuals out there. If you're not an intellectual, you can skip My Big Toe. There's a lot of big words. Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko. If you're into Native American worldview at all, that is a must read. Epic. The Giver by Lois Lowry, A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle, and Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach are all amazing books that are for people of all ages. I mentioned earlier the only books I've ever read of a political nature, or at least like a modern, not like political philosophy like from school, but like modern day politicians, if you want to call them that, actors. Ron Paul and Andrew Yang. Again, I don't agree with a lot of those ideas anymore, but they did influence me, so I felt the need to mention them. Brian Toohey. I'm not going to say much more about him. Before. You don't know who he is? We've got a podcast. I think I do. We got a podcast coming up with him.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote a book. He wrote a book called The Fixes In.
Right.
And another one.
Right. Football. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. That's how I didn't, their name didn't hit it first, but yes.
No worries. Brian Toohey, the Fixes In guy. He's got a couple of books. The Fixes In being the one that I would recommend. thefixesin.net. I'll link that book in the description as well. Hopefully I can fit all of this in the description. We'll see. Nick Hinton's books, I've already mentioned, Aquarian Singularity.
If you can't put it all on a Google
on a comment
and put a link.
I can just put a comment. I can comment on my own video.
Oh yeah.
Anything that doesn't fit in the description, I'll put as a comment. And then anybody out there who has a child with autism or knows anybody with autism, I highly recommend a book called Autism Breakthrough by Ron Kaufman. He was actually diagnosed severely autistic at age 3, and his parents worked tirelessly to get him connected to the world. And so, anyways, I won't harp on that too much, but it's an amazing book if you know anybody or are affected by autism at all. Definitely check that book out. So that's it as far as books. TV, I've only got one on the whole list. Westworld. If you haven't seen Westworld yet, you gotta watch Westworld, period. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
TV. I mean, I know I could get really conscious with it, but I mean, just throwing them out there, Breaking Bad and Ozark were definitely.
Breaking Bad is on my top 5 for sure.
But now Westworld, I told you I gotta finish it, but that's my kind of show though too.
Westworld.
Thought-provoking.
It's the only one I put on my list. It's the only one.
Yeah.
And I like a lot. I mean, I watch some. I'm not a big TV guy, but I watch.
Yeah,
some
I know.
And Westworld, but Westworld's the only one that I was putting on this list. And then movies that are not technically documentaries. Waking Life. If you've never seen Waking Life, you have to watch Waking Life. That is, it's amazing. And then it's a guy's journey through different people's dreams. He's dreaming and he's dream traveling. So it's amazing. The other one, and that was an independent film. It won some independent film awards back in the 90s. I don't remember the exact year. And the only other one on this list is another independent film. It's called Crash. And
I've seen Crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what a movie that was.
That's an amazing movie.
I need to see it again now.
Now that you're more aware.
Yeah. I've tried to go back and see all the movies that I feel like I need to see now. That's one I need to watch that again though, for sure. Definitely.
And then I do have a few honorable mentions in the movie category. I'm not, these aren't, whatever. Waking Life and Crash are the two that I most highly recommend, but also Idiocracy, The Truman Show, speaking of Jim Carrey.
Absolutely, The Truman Show. Absolutely.
The Matrix, of course.
Classic.
Almost like doesn't even need to be said. And then the most Hollywood movie that I've ever liked was Forrest Gump. And just something about it. I like the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, but it is what it is.
Yep. And then that's pretty much all I got for giving out flowers. The last thing I have is legitimate flowers. So shout out Mary Jane, shout out peyote, shout out San Pedro, shout out all of the natural medicines of the world.
Wonderful flowers that were given to us for us to learn from and use, and
herbs of the earth, man. Herbs of the earth. Give
this
us.
This has been real, man. This has been pushing.
We're just about to hit. I think we're over 4 hours, bro. We're over 4 hours, so I think we're good.
What a way to get back to it, right?
No kidding. I'll break this into two parts. We'll do a part one and a part two.
And then I think this is going to be
and there's going to be a lot of clips.
I think the list you put together, G, might be one of those lists. Sometimes you come across lists and you're like, yo, whoever put it together, thank you. And it's like made its run through wherever it's made its run through because it's such a historic list. This could be one of those lists, G.
It will be for sure.
Yeah.
Just a few things I had written down that I guess we didn't fully touch on, just to wrap it up. We already talked about Nas, Russ, in A Room Full of Mirrors, but man, what a end of the year for hip hop in 2021. There was Russ put out a classic album in December, and then Nas putting out Magic on Christmas.
Three albums in like 2 years. Nas doesn't even operate that way, man. It's insane. Well, I think 2020 sparked a lot because it COVID kept everybody at home. They weren't traveling and doing tours, and they got to really just really as an artist, it probably was the best time to be alive for them. I mean, I forgot who said it. They were like, yo, I had an album ready to go and I just rewrote the whole fucking album. Almost. Well, a lot of artists will write another album and then just put that out and probably save the other album. But my point is like 2021 was reaping the benefits of artists and creatives being able to just pretty much be at home and work, and a lot of good work, I think, obviously in 2021, but also in 2022 is going to come from that, and it's going to be another big year, though. This year, 2022 is going to be another big year for hip hop.
I was surprised you haven't listened to A Room Full of Mirrors yet. I had that written down to get your thoughts on that, but you got to listen to that. Moneybags.
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, check that one out. And then the very last point, we'll wrap it up on this. I just wrote down conspiracy as empowering. And I think where I was going with this mentally was, yes, a lot of the conspiratorial stuff we talk about, and I know you're more on the pessimistic end, and I tend to be on the more optimistic end of that balance. But, something I've been thinking about in regards to conspiracy, which we were just talking about, we don't really like that word so much anymore. I'm trying to find another word, another way to brand us. I think Sears. I like Sears. So, but the reason I put conspiracy as empowering, it's like, if we weren't powerful ourselves, then they would not need to go to the length that they go to try to deceive us.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying?
No, I totally do.
Like, yes, they
I
are.
yeah.
There is a lot of facts behind a lot of the quote unquote darker stuff that we talk about or that other people
Sure.
talk about.
For sure.
However, I feel like no matter how dark any particular rabbit hole goes, no matter even regardless of how factual it is, even the factual stuff, right? No matter how dark it gets, it's just proof that we are powerful. They
Right.
wouldn't be going to those lengths if we didn't have the power to create our own story and to stop operating in their narrative.
Right.
So just want to end on that. Like, you know, a lot of people avoid conspiracy because they see it as scary or
The main reason they're
or
fearful of that.
or fearful of the way they'll be perceived by their friends if they start looking into rabbit holes, you know, or anything that goes against they go away, if they, you know, veer from the narrative,
Yes.
they're worried that they might be looked at in a negative light. So they're scared to even explore some of these ideas the reason I say all of that is conspiracy as empowering is just a reminder that you can look into conspiracy with the knowing that you're more powerful than no matter the light that you can bring to any darkness. You're gonna light. It's like what Bob Marley says. You light up the darkness, and that's all you can do.
That's
and
all you can do.
What else did Bob Marley say? The people that are working to make this world a darker place are not taking a day off. So why should I?
Mm-hmm.
So shout out the legend one more time.
Yeah, man, that's real spill right there. What a way to end that. Real spill. Beautiful, man.
This was awesome, man. And we're going to be right back here tomorrow.
That's the thing about it. The guest that we have tomorrow, it's going to be fun.
It's hilarious how we do these podcasts, man. 2 months off, and then we'll go back-to-back nights.
But
We've done that a few times.
Sometimes, but you know, I don't listen. I don't know how the machines. I don't know how Rogan and them boys do it, man. And even the podcast guys I listen to, which do it, you know, religiously 5 days a week. It's like sometimes you got to have some shit going on though too to get back and have some good content to talk about too, without, you know, sounding like you're repeating yourself or whatever the case is. But no, it is funny how that happens. But you know, we cook up some fabulous stuff, man. Fabulous stuff with it. And it's really not even about, you know, it's more so about giving people just the opportunity to finally say, I love knowing that there are people that run across this that are like, yo, I was thinking the same thing. Or maybe I should look into that. Or like with this master list, which I can't wait to see what this looks like. The stuff that you can find by just opening your mind a little bit, man, and just not having your thoughts made for you, you know, or your feelings made for you, you know, can start to change for a lot. So but this has been beautiful. I think this has definitely been our longest one too.
Without a doubt. I'm gonna have to break it into 2 parts, but
one sitting.
It'll be worth it.
One. Oh, definitely.
But man, so much that was a great therapy session. Thank you.
Yes, sir, brother. Thank you, man.
Yep. And we will be back tomorrow.
Sounds good, man.
Peace
And love.